Good afternoon.
And safely turn the mute off. Thank you. Since I am no longer in the restroom. Yes, sir. I turned it down. I muted it actually, and I hear you, and I wasn't able to resolve it with the mute. And I also unplugged, thinking it was a ground loop, 60 hertz. I guess I could mute the projector. That might fix it. It's fun dealing with IT people because we can solve things. If worst case, we'll open a service desk ticket. So the metrics are good. AV mute. Well, too bad. Well, here's what I'll do. Yeah, it's something to do that. So here's what I'll do. Turn this down because I only need it for 2 moments. Thank you. Yeah, that would be distracting. And I don't want you to be distracted from what we're going to do. Thank you all for, I'm going to turn it down a little here too. Thank you for showing up. I mentioned that earlier. Raise your hand if you were not in the morning session with opening keynote. Raise your hand if you were not there. A handful of you weren't there. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to do the whole thing again. Some of you are like, whew. Don't want to live through that again. So, however, what we're going to do is we're going to take one particular vertical lesson that we did this morning, and we're going to go deeper into that vertical lesson so that you have some actual, some other strategies, and then also some tactics that you can use right away. When I say right away, I want to encourage you to use these tactics with team members, at work, and all of this stuff we're going to, I don't know, who was here this morning and saw me? Do you feel like what I talked about was for work or for personal, or C, all the above? It's a C. Good answer. All the above, exactly. So my point with that is actually a tactical learning tip as well for you right off the bat. Anywhere in your life, you see an opportunity to apply something I've shared with you, or that Pete shares with you next, or that Carlos shared with you, or anybody here, as soon as you can put it into action, do it. It will start, the results will then show up everywhere, right? So I intentionally blur the line between work and personal. I know it's a philosophical debate, but as far as learning and application and getting into motion, that's a good strategy. It's helped me. So on that note, this will serve you well. So definitely not just about IT or government. This morning, we did talk about one principle, and I'll briefly revisit for those of you who weren't in this session. But I'm going to start out a little differently and give you a framework that I typically only cover in customer service relationship skills focused sessions and deeper dive stuff like this, where either like a breakout workshop like this or multi-day workshops. It depends on how much we need to move the needle and how serious you are about doing that. So what we're going to do is give you first one, start out strategic. And I had this question that hit me. It's actually was triggered by some of the moments in the closing, second to closing story this morning, the legacy piece about my friend Rich, right? And what does that mean, really? What does legacy mean? As I started going deeper into that conversation in my brain and in my research and working with other people, it's like, okay, so if having a customer service legacy is one of our goals at a very high level, what does that mean? What do I need to focus on? I came up with 3 essential C's, in my opinion. If we make it as simple as possible, start at the highest level as strategically as possible. Here's how I see it and perceive it. Now, this is my bias, of course, as you all know, and certainly not the only way to do this, not the right answer necessarily. It's a way of viewing it. Based on my results, people have said, well, I'm ready to listen to the way you do it because you've done some pretty good stuff. So here it is. There's 3 C's. The first C, these 3 C's, you add them up and you get legacy, customer service legacy, something that people remember you for. That's, again, I want to make sure you're in touch with why would it be worth it to walk out here and do anything differently. Raise your hand if you're busy. Okay, everybody's hand up? Good. Now let's raise the other hands, do some aerobics, heat up in here. Is it going to be worth it? You're busy, right? Let's be real. Love conferences. But you're busy. Here's why I think it's worth it. I think it's about legacy. So what can we do about it then? 3 essential components. from my perspective. I'm going to do this interactively. We're going to kind of do a little mini workshop, actually. The first C, if you're thinking, okay, how do I build a legendary customer service legacy for myself, my team, my organization, our government? What do you think the first C might be? I think maybe the most important piece, we've got to get this going first. And in every organization I go into, whether it's a government or IT related, or if it's a completely different industry, anywhere in the world, this is the one I see them slipping on or failing on the most. Yes, ma'am. Need to care. Woo, we are off to a good start. Give me a high five. Now that was the wrong answer, actually. However, it's actually how you get to this C. So it's really a right answer in a way. So thank you. Wrong answer, but great guess, and you'll hear it. Communication, very close. That's my girls, my lip. There we go. You got it in 3. Wow, y'all are sharp. Who said connection?
I said connection.
Okay. Wow. Y'all know I'm transparent. I don't BS anybody. I'm telling you, I've had groups of like 400 people in the room, and it takes about 3 minutes to get the first C. I swear. How do y'all do that? I think you'd be brain dead. It's so cold as it is up here. No, actually hitting pretty sharp today. Good. It is what she said. The first C is connection. There you go. Boom. Connection. Now I want to call back to those other 2 C's, that first guess and the second guess as well. Connection is about communication, the tactical toolbox that goes with that, and some of what we're going to dive into today. And what I do spend a lot of time with teams doing is, okay, if we're going to build better connections, what are the communication skills that we need to sharpen up and constantly work on to become better at connecting, all right? When you boil it down, when I went deeper into this word, so I'm kind of this crazy obsessed person, as you might notice, and I don't just give up, whether it's getting here or climbing a mountain or figuring out what does connection mean. So I dug deeper, and here's what I believe. If we had to come up with a single word, and so how do we drive connection? It's what she said. That's why I got so excited. It's about that. Sorry, I screwed that up. The connection is not on the screen. Oh, here we go. So much for my game show days. When Steve Harvey retires, I will not be one of the people they consider. So connection, what drives connection is, what did she say earlier? Caring. Thank you. I think that's how we drive connection, so people know we care. Now, I get some resistance on this, and we're going to call back to this a little bit later, especially for certain personality styles, and they happen to be very prominent in IT, and engineers and accountants. Those introvert, quiet types are like, caring? Is that, you mean you want me to hug people? Come on. I don't mean that. Now, if you're more of a socializer, outgoing type like myself, or some of the people who kind of, that comes natural born salesperson, or a person who's just warm and friendly and connects, they say, well, that's easier for them. That's not easy for me. But here's the secret for those of you who are not real bubbling, outgoing, and you don't even love being in, maybe this room, you're like my wife. She'd be hiding in the room if she was here. She hates big crowds and conferences. But when you connect with my wife, and you shake her hand, or you meet her, and you look her in the eyes, you are going to know that she cares. That's what I'm talking about. When people look at you, and when they connect with you, and they shake your hand, or they're on the phone, regardless of your personality style that we're going to talk about in a minute, do they get an intimate sense that you care? You care. That's it. Do you care? People have to get that. When they get that you care, whether you're introverted or not, everything changes. You build an incredible connection. That's fun, fundamental. The second C. Who would take a wild guess? The second C. Who saw it? What else? Because hey, so let's say you're a natural born. It's easy for you. Maybe you're a person who just loves people, and you're like, I love people. I love connecting with people. I love it. What else do you need? If you're going to build a legacy with your customer service and your relationships, wild guess. Who saw it up there? Competence. Especially in your all's field, and most of you in here supporting technology or supporting people who support technology, here's what I noticed. And I have, as you might notice, I'm pretty good at the connection piece, pretty warm, natural gift perhaps that I might have. So what I would do is heavily emphasize that in hiring and putting people out on the front lines. I had a gal named Bev, a beautiful woman, just amazing at heart. She was just a great, great gal. And she had the connection thing just pouring out of her. She had never been in a technical job, though. She was one of our store managers at Build-A-Bear, and she actually got breast cancer, and we wanted to keep her on no matter what. We put her on a service desk because she knew the point of sale, and we thought operationally that would be great. It worked really well for a while. But then people would come to us and say, really love Bev. Gosh, but just send me a jerk that'll fix it. Just send me a jerk that'll fix it. That's a quote. And I was like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, well, she's so good. But just send me a jerk that'll fix it fast. Competent. Okay, so we got to have both, right? Well, then I started sending him a jerk or two that was super sharp and would fix it. The competence, way off the scale on the competence, super skilled. What do you think they said then? Send her back. Where's Bev? We're like, Bev, she made me feel good and treated me in a way and created an experience that was meaningful every time. So we need both. We got to constantly work on our technical skill set. So if you can't get the network back up fast, your connection's only going to get you so far. Likewise, I don't care if you're the smartest one in the room. You might get a job. There's organizations and cultures where you could survive, and they put up with jerks. We didn't put up with jerks at Build-A-Bear. I would invite you to be the same, to draw a line. I said, we don't. There's a myth in IT especially, say, well, I remember one time, a quick story, I tried to hire this database administrator. We were desperate for this position to be filled, and we met what I believe to be maybe the sharpest database administrator I'd ever met. I dabbled in it, I got SQL certified and all that, but this guy was brilliant. And we were ready to hire him. Made it all the way through the interview process, a ruthless process, and then our CFO, Tina, said, "You all crazy." She interviewed and she said, "There ain't no way I'm hiring him." What happened? She said, well, I asked him, she said, "Hey, Jerry, have you been to one of our stores yet?" That was her favorite interview question. And he said, I quote, "If you give me an offer, I'll consider it." Yeah. I said, well, Tina, he's not even going to talk, he doesn't have to talk to our frontline people. He's like back in the closet, working on making the data work. I'm giving you your numbers. She said, "Do you want to talk to him?" She said, "Forgive me, don't talk to our external customers or even to the accounting team." She said, "Do you want to sit down and work with that guy?" No, not really. So we need both, okay? Then this is I think the ultimate crux of the human condition is being consistent. We need consistency. If we don't do connection consistently and we don't consistently go after growing our competence, and I mean, maybe there's years when they've got budget and they send you to training, good. And maybe there's years when they don't have budget. At Build-A-Bear post 2008 that I mentioned, I never forget my boss, Michael. I said, I wanted to give some people a raise. He said, "We don't have any money going around." He said, "Who's going out and getting training, even though we're not paying for it? Who's going anyway and paying out of their own pocket?" I gave them a list. They got raises and promotions. Do it no matter what. Don't let anybody know that's an excuse. Oh, they're not paying for it. Mindset, just dropping this mindset seed on you there. Take ownership of your career. If they'll pay for it, great. Make sure your competence is growing and you're building connection with consistency. When you do all three of those well, you're going to have a legacy. Right now, and when you move on, you don't have to pass away for the legacy to be realized. Yes, that's what it's about. So let's dive deeper. Let's get tactical. Earlier, we talked about it, and there's maybe 20% of the room here who didn't hear this, but I'll just tell you the quick concept, a quick callback. Earlier, I talked about a crazy climbing experience I had. I climbed with this Russian and his wife, and in his hands right there, you see a section of this very rope that I have in my hands. This is a simple principle. The idea is that when you go climbing out of your comfort zone in your day-to-day life, we all need to know somebody's got the rope in their hands for us, and they're going to give us enough rope, not too much slack. They're not going to hold us back. And then when we fall, they stop the fall. Right? We have to be intentional about this, though, if we want to build really meaningful relationships. It's the get on belay principle. So that was vertical lesson number 3 from earlier, get on belay. Let's dive deeper into this first at a somewhat of a strategic level, and then we're going to get super tactical. Sound good? Okay. All right, here we go. The get on belay. I'm going to ask you the 3 questions we did earlier. If you didn't already cover them, or write them down, this is another opportunity for you, and then those of you who didn't see it as well. The first question was, who do I need on belay today? It's like on the plane. You get the oxygen mask on first. I don't even know if they had oxygen masks on that plane last night with David. We didn't get that far. He did show me where the emergency exits were. He's like, if something happens to the plane on this crazy flight we're going to do, you're going to be operating the exit. And I'll be here hopefully to help you. Okay, it felt a little different than it does on Southwest. And like 6, 7, 8, we needed a yes, verbal yes. It was just me and him. I'm like, oh, this could be for real. Who do you need on belay today? Get yourself on belay first. It's that oxygen mask. You got to get on belay. Who is it? I know what I noticed too about service people, IT people, people who support others. Have you ever noticed sometimes you might be the last one to ask for the help you need? That's one of my challenges. Number 2, who will I belay to? It's the second question, who will I be intentional about? Now, not just the people who you think of as your customer. Blur the lines, vertical and horizontal boundary, and reach out with intention. Could be boss's boss, someone over somewhere else, and say, thinking of you, got your back. How you doing? Check in. That's step 3, and that's the get on belay step. Let's go deeper. I want you to identify some people specifically in these areas with a certain lens on. Here's the lens we're going to put on. If we're going to ask the first question, I talked about it as far as the basics of the belay. That is, number 1, write down one person right now in your life who may be giving you too much slack. Example for me, my wife. It's more comfortable, by the way. Slack is very comfortable for the person who's out on there that needs the belay. Right? Because at that time, as long as everything's cool, you're like, yeah, they're not bothering me. My boss isn't standing over me. My wife isn't bugging me right now to do the dishes. It feels good because it's comfortable. There's a lot of slack out. But when that slack's out, and you will fall. When you fall with the slack out, it's going to hurt. Okay? Who's the person in your life that might be giving you too much slack? Even if it's comfortable. Identify that person and write them down. Raise your hand if you have an example, someone you want to share. Not necessarily the story, but raise your hand. Just, you say, I got somebody in mind. Who's got a person in mind in your life that you might need to just check in and say, hey, here's what I need from you. Okay. Maybe you think it's their responsibility. If it's your boss, you say, well, that's their responsibility to check in with me, and I don't want to have them standing over me. But are you getting the support you need? That's the question. Okay, second question for you. Write down one person in your life who may be holding you too tight. That's a belayer, right, who might be holding you back. Maybe you need some room to grow. You don't feel like you're getting the support in a way that's allowing you to step up. In your mind, or write down, note tool, and then we're going to do number 3 and 4. We're going to flip it to that second question. First question is, write down one person in your life who may be giving too much slack. Someone who you are normally on belay in connection with, that you haven't been checking in as regularly, or you think you might have failed them, or just not there in the way you need to be. Who's that one person? Or maybe it's a team. Someone you need to get on belay with. Give you a moment on that one. One person in your life who, or one team, could be even, that you give too much slack to. Let me know if you need more time. We're good to go. Most eyes are up. All right, and then the fourth question, one person in your life who you may be holding back. You may be holding the belay a little too tight. Maybe you're not giving them the room and encouragement to really grow. Step up. Quick example for me, I had a gal over in accounting. Brilliant. She had a master's in information systems management. She sat and ran our ERP system that I implemented for us. And she wanted the slack, but IT, and especially in general, well, she wasn't really in IT, so she can't have access to that. She can't do that. And I said, look, y'all, this Dawn is out there on the front line. Do you know how many more tickets we would get if she wasn't here? She's doing. They said, well, we know she runs the payroll line. I said, no, she's doing printer jams, and she's network and fixing Word. And so we set her up as a second-level service desk analyst. Oh, we can't do that. She's not a service desk person. Power user. As soon as we gave her, let that slack out and let her go, man, she just took it to a whole other level. And she wanted that respect. She told that to me, and that's how I figured it out. I'm like, oh, she said, hey, y'all don't respect me. I'm trying. Then we let her escalate tickets. Oh, wait a second. She can't. No, the first level person or the second level person has to escalate the ticket. Why? Payroll's down. She knows who needs to fix it. And the guy on the database that she works on, it wasn't Jerry. We never hired him. We finally found a guy, Gary Deratico. He fit in our culture. He was awesome. She said, why can't I just reach out to Gary? There's minutes there, Manly. If I just escalate it, assign a ticket to him, put it in his queue, he can get on it. Made sense. Huh. Wasn't a rule. Just a thought. Okay. How are we doing so far? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. First little interactive moment. I'm going to have you, other than you're interacting with your brain and that pen, hopefully, and engaged, but I want you to all stand up, and then you're going to connect with one person. If you can, pick somebody you don't work with every day. Maybe you don't know that well. Pick a person that you know at least. Grab them, not grab them, but anybody from HR here? Connect with them and share with them. Share all these 4 different people you might have identified. Share one of them with them. Say, here's a person I've got too much slack, and share one. Share one person.
If you shared that person, which you're going to be intentional about with Blake, go ahead when you're done. You can sit down, so I know you're done. And you keep chatting. I love the engagement. Oh, okay. Wow, well behaved too. Haven't started drinking yet. Guys, what'd you say? What is that? Are you sure? Oh man, that's why I was so engaged. That's why y'all thought I was so funny this morning. Awesome. I just want to pack you off in a bus and take you where to go. Best audience I think I've had all year. I'm not kidding you. Same stuff. Sometimes you say it and people are just like. There's only so many times you say, people usually laugh there. Belay, get on belay. Okay, who has one that you feel compelled to share? If you're willing to raise your hand and give us, a couple sentences, 2 or 3, brief. You don't have to be too detailed or personal, so we have to get through a few. Who's willing to share the person in your life, the situation that you're going to be intentional about getting on belay? Yes, ma'am. So the first volunteer gets the reward, biggest reward, right? I'll give you one of my books. When we're done, stop by and I'll sign it for you. And this is Wayne, is that right?
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you. Our example was bosses who they give you too much slack and you don't know what their priorities are.
Yeah.
So you may not be working on what they think is important because you think it's important. So
I'm just holding myself back right now. I could go on we all could, right? Hours. I had my boss's name is Michael at Build Bear. Worked for the same guy for 11 years. I have so many great stories. He's a great leader too, but we all have those stories, right? So I think just one little thing I'll add in that's very relevant. I think for many years I thought, well, he's the leader, he should be doing whatever, right? And like we've agreed and pointed out, it feels more comfortable anyway, right? So, own it. If you notice, the belay, did I ever say like, okay, Dina's the more experienced climber, he's the dude. He's the one who's the belayer. Or I am, or if you noticed, I belay from the bottom, people to the top, and then perhaps I'm kind of the guys who are literally people you see on the cover of National Geographic, North Face team members, friends of mine, and there'll be moments when they're on lead, but I'm the belay. They're by far the most experienced. And likewise, there are moments when they say, get on the lead, man, I got you, you go. So it's not about rank, position, and so on. So own it yourself. Yes, should the boss recognize that and be a better belayer? Yes, but do it anyway. Yes, and there was another person that wanted to volunteer. Who was it back here? Was a hand somewhere? Who raised their hand? See y'all later. Now, somebody raised their hand, didn't they? Anybody else want to raise their hand? Share. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I have a nonprofit and I have a dog trainer. I was giving way too much slack to.
Stand up in there, he can hear you better. Sorry.
So because it's my nonprofit, I was giving her a lot more slack than I needed to, and I kind of had to kind of say, okay, we need to talk about this, and just pull her back in so that we were both on the same page. And that was kind of getting off the way. It's more comfortable, but it was something that I had to do, and I had to take ownership of it because I didn't set any parameters. I didn't say, oh, you know what, I only want you doing this, this, and this, not this. So when it came down to the fact it was costing money, then I had to say, you know what this piece is doing is costing us a lot of money. We need to talk to that.
Thank you. What was your name again? Dee Dee. Thank you, Dee Dee. Oh, I was going to give you a little postcard, a summary of the vertical lessons. My wife does this all the time with her. If she was here, she'd be like, all right, don't be telling that story. Her dad and her up and down relationship, right? It happens. I said, honey, get on Blake. She's like, well, he should call me. It's like kind of like what you pointed out. So, who wrote that rule? Yeah, he should call you more, you're right. So call him. Lead in the way you want to be led, or lead in the way, interact in the way you want to be interacted. Get on Blake the way you want to be belayed, right? Anyway, yeah. I think we get caught up in that some. I know I have, right? So, just do it anyway.
get on belay, and even if it's uncomfortable. I applaud you for doing that when it's uncomfortable. Why do you think I'm so into this? These lessons, a lot of stuff I teach is the things I struggle with the most still this day and have struggled with. So these conversations were not easy for me. I was the one, like I said earlier, I've given too much slack, so thank you. Anybody else want to share one more real quick before we go on? If not, we'll keep moving. We got a lot of good stuff. Cool. All right. Questions so far? All right. Next. We're going to get more tactical now and dive a little deeper and answer, at least start to explore how we answer the question. Ultimately, people will eventually ask me and say, okay, I get it, man, I'm ready. I got it. I got my list. I'm doing it actually better than ever, more consistent. I fell off the horse the other day and I got going again. But I got a couple of people, raise your hand if you got somebody in your life that's like, man, I just don't really connect with them. Personality grind or conflict, or just like, phew. Raise your hand. Somebody in your life, one person. You've got 20 or more. Right. Say if you've been here for 50 years. 50. So this is going to really help you, I promise you. That's the short version of that. Very tactical. The idea here is that to more dynamically engage and connect with those people that you're on belay with in every walk in the area of your life, whether it's sitting there at a team meeting, boss, someone you serve, you have a relationship with or not outside of the work, you serve them or sell to them or you support them, whatever it is. Here's how we're going to do this. I love this particular framework, and I have a degree in psychology. I've studied all kinds of different assessments and personality assessments and relationship, and maybe some of you heard like Myers-Briggs, an example. Who's familiar with the DISC profile? Raise your hand. Okay, several people. This will sound, those of you who are familiar with the DISC profile, of knowing what personality style somebody is and adjusting and helping connect with them, this might sound familiar because it is similar to it. And I'll make some connections there for you to help you, so you don't have to learn something new. But I want to tell you why I like this particular system more than any other. First of all, it's simple and it's easy to implement quickly. One of the most frustrating things I found, at first I was very intrigued and entertained. I would go to great breakout sessions and brilliant people would stand up and give me lots of great academic information. And I was like, wow, they're really smart. Fast forward 2 months later, or even just 2 weeks, I would find myself struggling to implement that information on the fly, in the trenches, on the front line. You've been there? Me too. We're going to break it down. There's 2 questions/observations that for you to just keep in mind. It's something you're going to practice, and it's a skill set. If you're serious about your relationship skills, you're going to need to practice this. It's simple. You're going to you go, I got it. In a month or 2, I invite you to go back and revisit it. 2 observations are going to yield 4 quadrants, and it's going to build infinite stronger relationships for you. Here you go. It's based on, with full credit due to one of my mentors from afar, his name is Dr. Tony Alessandra. Tony is one of many people who moved this whole concept forward. It actually dates back to when I really got into it and found his system. I tried to figure out, well, who really came up with it? It dates back to Aristotle, was one of the first, Socrates, one of the first people to ever look at personality and come up with maybe there's different styles and how we interact with different personalities might help us get more done. He coined this phrase, treat others the way they want to be treated. We know the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. This takes it to another level, and it builds on that and just says, okay, treat the way you want to be treated is great, but what if the way you like to interact is not the way they like to interact? We have to be aware first for this to work. So first of all, on a side note, I want to give credit to Dr. Tony and encourage you to pick up his book if this interests you. And it's like $9 on Amazon. It's fantastic. Linked to this, earlier I had the slide up about here. Text this number if you want to get the slides, right? I said number 3 item was you can get an ebook, a Relationship Strategies ebook. He authored it and gave me permission and encouraged me to give it to people. It's a great little short read if you don't have time for the big book. Awesome. Highly recommended. So let's dive right in. Here it is. Let's talk about the 2 questions, observations, and then I want you, as we're going through this, to first try to identify where you land on the map. Most of the time at work. Where you land on the map most of the time at work. Why is that important? I hear people often say, well, man, I'm kind of, at work I'm kind of over here, but when I'm hanging with my real buddies, old friends, I'm a little more in this zone. And then when people push me, I kind of slide over here, take a stand.
This is the distinction that Tony hammered into my head on phone calls. He said, Manley, it's about observable behavior. He does have a brilliant assessment. I sometimes use that as a tool with teams, but you don't have to have an assessment. You're going to get 2 questions and walk out of here. You can use it on the next break, guaranteed. Okay? So, here are the questions. Number 1, observation question 1. Are they, in this case, try to find yourself first at work where you typically show up most of the time. Are they direct and fast-paced? Or are you indirect and slower-paced? Just a simple question. The answer to this question, observation, is going to plot you south to north here, top to bottom, on the quadrant. So if you're a little bit slower-paced, you're going to land on the bottom half of the quadrant. If you're a little faster-paced, you're going to be on the top half of the quadrant. Some of you might say, well, sometimes I'm slow, sometimes I'm fast-paced. Right? That's Tony's whole point, is that based on the scenario, the social setting, you might shift and show up. That said, you will have an area where you typically do hang out and show up. Your preference or your strength. Slow-paced, fast-paced. Okay. Now, sometimes people say, sometimes I'll do this work with people who support remote teams or teams they don't even know. It's easy when you know the person. You're going to have people in your life that are going to pop right up on this quadrant in a minute. What if you don't know them? Maybe you just take a 1 inbound call. You don't even know this person. Maybe it's someone out, the actual taxpayer, someone you support. There's a little clue here. Slow-paced. We can observe 2 things. If you see them physically, what? How fast they walk and how fast they talk. Then, well, if it's just email even, how brief are they? What level of brevity do they use in their emails? 1 or 2 lines, bullet points, or are they going on 3 paragraphs? Like my emails back in the day. Okay. Observation question number 2. Are they task-oriented or relationship-focused? If you're task-oriented, you're going to land over here on the left. And if you're relationship-oriented, more on the right. So if you want to sketch that out, works great. The old school pen there, you can draw it out. And then just for right now, not scientifically, but just I kind of show up here at work mostly. Fast-paced, slow-paced, and generally task versus relationship. As an example, while you're sitting here, here's the question you might help to analyze this with real quick. Are you at break or when you zoned out and bored by me? Are you sitting here going, whew, you're thinking about work and all the stuff that's piling up along with that snow, and you go, are you thinking and seeing it in task list? Or are you thinking it in as far as relationships? You think, I need to call Susan, and I got to call Bob, and I got to call my husband, and oh my, the cat doesn't have any cat food. Or are you like, cat food, boom, it's linear analytical, right? That linear analytical is that left side task. Relationship on the right. Got it? How are we doing so far? You see yourself there at work most of the time? Tendency? All right, here's the 4 quadrants. Another final reason I'll tell you that I love Tony's way I got about it is when I say these quadrants, I'm going to see your heads nod, I guarantee it. You're going to get it. His labels that he chose, and any of y'all, like Carlos knows this industry, what everybody did is took his work and other people's and they copied it, and so they didn't have to pay him royalties. They actually relabeled all the boxes, and people have come up with animals and colors and all kinds of interesting stuff. I was going to do that, try to come up with a clever climbing thing. And one of my buddies said, man, Tony's is the best. Why don't you just call him and see if he would give you permission or you could license it? And I was like, oh, okay, brilliant. I call him up and say, hey, I want to pay you. I'm using your work. I'm quoting you, and I'm trying to get people to buy your book. You probably never know, but I want to first get permission. What do I owe you? What's the licensing? How do you do it these days? He said, just keep getting my work out there, and you're welcome to use it. Then he gave me some support. Anyway, long story, here it is. Big, simple label, right? A word to describe those who are task-oriented, fast-paced, the directors. Directors. Do you get it? Does the word make sense? Yeah, it's simple. Now, I did do this. I did customize my blue-collar version of my Kentucky roots, Kentucky boy way of expressing, this is a get her done. Come on, let's get her done. Let's go. Right? It's like Jeff Foxworthy of personal development up here. Get it done. And what motivates them? This is where you really can go deeper into the influence piece is what are they motivated by? Highly motivated by saving time and money. I've had people in government and military say, well, that doesn't really apply to us. Call it efficient. It does apply. Thank you. And if you don't think it does, call it efficiency. Okay. How can we communicate more effectively with them? Two quick, simple couple words here with very important tactical, simple ideas. Bullet points and enumeration. Both in verbal communications and in written electronic communications. Here's what I mean. Bullet points means bullet points. That's easy to email, right? My old boss was a CIO, and he was a director in one of these other quadrants I'll cover in a minute. He didn't like a lot of detail. And I was over here and I give him 5 paragraphs. Imagine that. Like to talk, like to write long emails. He said, Manley, the next time I get an email, I have to scroll down. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to at least delete it. Don't. I got it, Dave. I'm sorry. He said, give me some bullet points. Give me some bullet points. They like bullet points. Roll it up now. Verbal bullet points. That's why I try to even verbally try to keep things more concise and tight. And then I also I practice on the fly enumeration. It's a fancy word for number things. Number things in the email. Here's the 3 questions I have. 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. And you're more likely to get a response, yes? Yeah, see, when you look back, oh yeah, I've done that a couple times. Maybe you do it well. If you're the style, you probably present your communication like this already. Enumeration. On the fly, I'll use it. So, my wife will say, well, why do you want to go to there and there? And I'll say, honey, practice this and try this. Honey, there's 3 reasons. Start out with a number. And you may not have 3 yet, but stick with me. This is very powerful. And like I said earlier, I don't stop at just like, oh, I read this, great research to back it up. Why? I always ask, why is that? What happened is, or not happened, but why enumeration is so powerful in a learning environment is that as children we are taught in school, when you hear a numbered list, pay attention. Here it comes. You get some ideas or some content. So that's why I try to number things. I'll say, honey, 3 reasons I don't want to go there. Number 1, we just had Mexican night before last. Number 2, I'm not in the mood for margaritas. And frankly, number 3, those beans give me bad gas. I just made that up on the fly. Some of you laugh, some of you are like, just made it up. Sometimes you won't think of, maybe have 1 or 2, and you won't get to number 3. Most likely, by the time you get to number 2 or so, they'll be like engaged and don't forget about number 3. Try it. 3, by the way, if you're going to pick a number, there's a lot of research, and Carlos could go deeper on this, I'm sure, on why. I can't explain it, but 3 is a very powerful number. Yes, absolutely. 3, our brains love 3. So it keeps it concise too. Okay, let's talk about the next one. Perhaps you are the one over here on the far right. You're fast-paced, but you're not so task-focused, you're more people-focused. These are the life of the conference. Thank goodness we have the socializers here. The socializers, this is my Kentucky boy version, this is the Get Wilds. Like, woo, let's have fun, let's party, let's get a team going, and let's tackle this with some fun. They are highly motivated. If the director is highly motivated by time and money, those socializers light up when they have prestige and recognition, like being on that stage earlier. Raise your hand if you're somebody in that audience and you think, man, I'd like to be on that stage next year. I'm highly motivated by that. I'm like, man, I love that recognition. And it's not a competition thing. I want everybody up there with me, like y'all had today, like teams that's pouring up into the kitchen. Here's the thing you want to avoid is sticking strictly to business with them, which is weird because that's the exact opposite of what the director does want you to stick strictly to business. So guess what happens when you get a socializer sitting across from a director? Yeah, they get frustrated. Like, come on. I don't want to hear about your weekend anymore. I'm glad you were happy. Good, glad you showed up sober on Monday. Good party. Yeah, right? Yeah, some of you directors are like, all right, let's go down the bottom left here. Slow-paced, task-oriented. Typically lots in IT engineering and those sort of fields, and aeronautics and space, and thank goodness we have thinkers. Another brilliant label. It's so simple, like thinker. I get it, right? Thinkers, got it. The thinkers. I call this one the get it right. We got to get it right. We're very detail oriented. The thinkers are. They are also very motivated, typically by saving money. Your accountants often will fall over here in this quadrant, as traditionally, and there's a reason I put this in bold and underlined it. Accuracy is extremely important for the thinkers. Don't tell them that the details don't matter. Don't tell them to hurry up, even if you're a director and they're aggravating you. Avoid rushing them. key. Here's a tip for you, for those thinkers in particular, that might be in your life and they might be frustrating you. If you're polar opposite and you want these faster paced on the top half here, they're going to frustrate you. You've got to build some time in. If you want, you don't have to. If you want to connect with and influence and lead, regardless of your authority, your thinkers in your life, you need to build in some time to help them have a little moment to think it through. And here's a little tip. Don't tell the thinkers this. Here's a trick. Sometimes just using the phrase think, or the word think, will actually make them feel comfortable. And you may be giving them the same amount of time you were going to. A lot of it's how we position our language. Right? If you say, hey, could you look this over and think about it and give me your thoughts? I'd appreciate your perspective. Thinkers will just, oh, thank you. I would love to. Right? Okay, so those of you are laughing, I'm just curious. Are you thinkers or directors? Raise your hand. Tell me, I'm just curious. You're a thinker? Okay. Director? It's not, I'm not fighting right now. Okay. Bottom right quadrant, we have slow-paced and relationship side of the house here, the relators. The relators they like to relate and connect. They're very people-oriented. They like to get along. That's the number one thing for them is, when everybody get along, I want to get along. They wear their emotions on their sleeve. They're not very guarded with their emotions or their feelings typically. They're very comfortable hugging often or, letting you know that they care about you. It's more outwardly expressed. It's easier for them to let you know that they care. So they build, what was the first C? It's 3C formula. They build connections. It's very natural for them. Interestingly enough, when I self-assess, I see myself more down here. When I take Tony's assessment, I end up landing more up here. For me to be a more effective leader at Build-A-Bear and with my kids, I had to intentionally try to shift over here more. That's the thing. It's about being dynamic. And really astute people in leadership and people like Carlos is an example that know this field and probably worked at their skill set, or those of you who have been in a quote-unquote traditional manager role for many years. Often I'll have conversations with them. They're like, you know what? Man, this is, I see my whole progression. I said, Manley, is this weird? When I started out, I was kind of over here, so I got naturally promoted and rose up the ranks. But now I still have this tendency, but I see myself able to float more here, and then I can slip over into these zones when I need to. Or sometimes I'll be in a meeting and I'll slide down into thinker zone. You ever notice one of those? Like, the director or whoever comes in, or a social worker comes in, like, woo, blah, 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 blah. And great example. A good sales vendor or partner, like your partners here, the sponsors, they're not all of them, a lot of them are going to be in this natural zone. If they're good, they're going to ask you better questions, and they're going to slide over here and shut up and listen. And let you go and think about it. It's about being dynamic and adjusting on the fly based on observable behaviors. Now, so relators get along, relationships, highly motivated about relationships, sustaining those, and approval, as I mentioned. These people, they can be so frustrating, especially for the directors, because they are the ones who want to tell you about their cat that they adopted and lost, and they found it again on the weekend, and then their aunt was in town, the aunt was aggravating them, and then Uncle Bob, and you're like, just get some work done. Come on, we got to get busy. It's Monday morning. I don't want to be here any more than you do, you relator. It's tough. Here's the big, I want all you directors to listen up. Right now, listen up, directors. They're like, are you talking my language? Yes, gotcha. You don't have to connect with your relators. You don't have to try and give them space and show them that you care, even if it's more brief and more concise and direct. You don't have to, but when you do, there is not a single group on this page that will be more loyal and be more of an advocate for you and step up and stand up and keep coming back and stay when times are tough and commit beyond circumstance. The relators are worth it. So, how are we doing so far? Doing well? All right, good stuff. We've got a perfect amount of time left, and what we're going to do next is make sure that you see exactly how this relates to you and people in your life so that you can go actually use this information when you walk out of here. How about that idea? Okay, so what we're going to do now, if you haven't already, pick a little spot where you think, as I mentioned earlier, it's not all the time, it's not in all the areas of your life. Let's just focus on work. Where do you see yourself typically hanging out? What zone? most often are you in at work? And identify that. Raise your hand if you need some time for that, or you figured it out already. Most of you probably just boom. Got it? Okay. Now we're going to do one more fun thing in a moment, but right now let's just do a quick survey in the room. So, directors in the room for me, would you please stand up quickly and properly? I'm talking to director language. All right, got the directors here. Excellent. All right. So please stay standing for just a moment. I won't keep you long. I know time's very important to you and valuable. Here's the deal, y'all. Here's what directors, first of all, we kind of went through it. If you see people slowing down here, just mirror it. That's, for lack of a better word, to really sum it up, it's kind of trying to mirror what you see in an authentic way. You see them talking sort of, oh, here we go. Slow down a little bit, give them some space to think, right? But for everybody else in the room that work with our directors here, the people are really helping us get the stuff done. Here's what we need to do to not aggravate them. Let's try to speed up a little bit, and let's give them some bullet points, some enumeration. Let's not bog them down with as much conversation about our weekend as much as I love to talk about it. Fair enough? Okay, awesome. You can sit down. It was about 10% of the room, roughly. Always curious of the percentages there. So how about top right here? Fast-paced, relationship-focused, the socializers. Everybody who's a socializer, stand up, and I want to hear you go, oh, yeah! Socializer, on your feet. All right, now dance. Oh, she was already dancing. See? Already dancing in the back. Not a whole lot of socializers. Okay, that's cool. I mean, y'all can sit down. We'll party later. Here it is, y'all. Sometimes you have to. Like, there's solo tasks that the socializer has to complete, but when you can put the socializer with at least another person or involve them in an interactive group, they're going to thrive more. They don't want to work alone. You know who does want to work alone, though? There's a reason they're positioned polar opposite. Okay. Let's talk about the thinkers for a moment. Thinkers, don't think about it. Just stand up. All right. Oh, my goodness. There we go. I wish I was a betting man. I could have won some money. Gambling legal here in Montana? Yes. Oh, good. Over half the room, right? No surprise. Okay, thinkers, I know it's kind of comfortable for you to be standing up and the spotlight on you, so go ahead and sit down. You don't have to think about it. Just sit down. Thinkers don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't necessarily want to be on a big team, or that doesn't mean they're not a good team player, right? But they just give me time to think and be methodical and respect the fact that I'm detail oriented. And if it wasn't for me being a detail oriented person, things would blow up and things would fail and code would explode and you wouldn't get your taxes paid on time and rockets wouldn't fly. And David's plane wouldn't have made it here last night, right? But got church grind. Woo. Yeah, no kidding. Thinkers, awesome. Here's for all the rest of us. I'm not a thinker. I do occasionally go into this mode and get contemplative and analytical, but not my normal zen. Just give them some space. Respect the fact, and think about how can I leverage this person in a way, and with their strength, and perhaps tasks and assignments that leverage more of that for them. Finally, we have the relators, bottom right. Slower pace, relationship focused. They want to get along, they want to hug and carry on. I wanted to hug David this morning. So I look over like he's bawling. I don't know if you all noticed that here in the back. He's just tears flowing down his eyes. I was like, and I'm a relator, right? So I'm like, almost crawled over the table. And then I remembered, he's an ex-Marine. He'd probably take me out right there. Don't be hugging me. Don't let anybody see them. I'm crying up here. Oh, man. Bless his heart. Whew. I think that my brief time with David, I believe he was a thinker, but it was interesting. I kind of could see his strengths when I was getting to know him when I first met him. And then as the plane ride went on and as the weather started getting worse, he started getting a little more chatty. I guess he figured, well, if I'm going down with you in the plane, I might as well get to know you a little better here. What the hell, right? So, oh my goodness. Then we got into relator mode today. He was texting me at lunch, and we were in relator mode. Telling each other how much we appreciated that moment. So, good stuff. How are we doing? Do you have something you can use when you walk out of here? At least one thing, I hope. Okay, we are right on track to wrap it up. What I want to do, though, before we wrap up and make this tight, one more little exercise, interactive for you. What? Yes, ma'am.
Can I have relators stand up?
Oh, I didn't? Oh, golly. See, I just hurt their feelings. Thank you. I'm sorry, and I'm a relator. I didn't believe you. Now that breaks my heart. I'd be obsessing about that rhetoric part. I can't believe I didn't let the relators stand up. Okay, here's what we're going to do. All the relators, please stand up. I love all of you. Relators, give the relators a hand. And when you see him in the hallway, even if you don't feel comfortable, maybe wait till cocktail hour and give him a big hug. And tell him, sorry about you got to get to stand up. All right, relators, thank you. It was about 15 or so % of the room looked like. Smallest slice, I think, was directors, followed by relators. Actually, socializers was the smallest slice, which is very typical in nodding. Don't forget the industry versus government or private, whatever. And just in groups are focused on what you all have to do every day. Now, that's a generalization. It's observation. It's dangerous. But in some ways, it's important in this case to be aware. That's key. The first step to your next summit is awareness. We have to drive awareness if we want to move the needle. So first, what I would, just a simple step, don't have a slide for it, but I would invite you to, when you walk out of here, for a week or two, to put this into action. Just practice on noticing. I'm getting my tea in line here. Next breakout, say, oh, I got a socializer next to me. Looks like they're ready to party. Trying to chat me up. I don't feel like talking. I'm a thinker, right? Somebody tried to hug me. I'm a director. I want to get to the front line. I'm ready to take this over, and I'm ready to run this place. This is inefficient how they did this line to the beer. Right? Just drive awareness. Awareness is the key, the first step to your next summit. Then, the next 3 weeks or so after that, and no scientific method to this, but when you feel like, right about that 2 or 3 week period, it's going to start to wear off. The weirdest thing is you go, well, man, like, come on, we're smart people. You said it earlier. We were answering questions. It seems so simple. Don't let that fool you. That it's easy to implement. It's easy to internalize, and it's easy to actually see results from. The reality is, we're human. We've got to reprogram and get this stuff internalized and ingrained. It's worth it, I promise you. Awareness first, then revisit the information in your notes, and then start going back and writing down those people again. Say, okay, today, and then step back and say, okay, today, who am I going to have a meeting with or interaction, likely to have an interaction with, and where do they land? And how, just you thinking about it for a moment and being intentional will help you show up in a way that engages them and builds stronger relationships. Put it into action. Keep reviewing. Keep going. All right. So, to wrap it up, wow, how about we just quick stand up and make this super short. I want you to pick one person you haven't talked to yet. If we can do this in about, actually, let's not do it. I've already gone over time one time today. I'm not going to let it happen again. Never let that happen. It was a special moment this morning, so they forgave me for going over time. I hope you did too. So let's not do that. But here's what we'll do instead. I want you to, at least verbally right now, who's willing to yell out and commit and just say, hey, and name one person in your life. You can just do first name only. Here's a person I'm going to try to be more intentional about and try to meet them where they are and connect with them in a more meaningful way. Who's got one they want to yell out? I'll give you a postcard real quick with the summary vertical lessons from earlier on it. Raise your hand and say, okay, for me it's my friend Bob. Boom. Just real quick, that you're going to apply these ideas with to build stronger relationships. Better delays. Yes, ma'am.
Boss Dan.
Boss Dan. Great. Thank you. Boss Dan. Okay, who else? Did you raise your hand? Here. I'll give you one anyway. You have to answer a question now. Which one are you? You don't have to stand up.
Which one am I?
Yeah.
I'm a thinker.
Yeah. Really? Thank you. Thanks for standing up. Cool. Appreciate you. All right. Yes.
I'm a thinker, and Kelly, the director. The last bullet point, my third point, will always be, and the beans gave me gas.
What was the key takeaway from the conference? Watch out for Mexican food. It was a reminder. Some things are revelations. You go, wow, I've never thought of it like that. And then sometimes it's just a reminder. Yeah, like Mexican food. Okay. One more. Julie. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, excellent. Okay, so wrap it up here. Let's do a quick summary. I want to give you even more simple, kind of make this stuff actionable. Here it goes. Director, Bottom line. Use that phrase. Literally, that's why I have it in quotes. When you use the phrase bottom line of the director, they're going to go, oh, thank you. Bottom line. Boom. Next, we have socializer. Think fun. How can I make it fun, engaging, more dynamic, social for them? And then thinkers literally use the word think. When you say think, let you think about it. What do you think about this? It triggers them and helps them relate. And then finally, those relators use the word feel more. Quite the opposite of the think. How do you feel about this? Let me know how you feel about this. Relators will respond more to that than the other verb think. Okay. Question from earlier, one last time here. You just answer this for me. Is it worth it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Here's why it's worth it for me. Here's what I live for. I want to have a moment. I had one in San Antonio in 2012. It's April, this guy was in a seminar with me, and then September rolled around and happened to be in San Antonio again. And 9 a.m. or thereabouts, this lady walks in and she just lights up when she walks in the room, and she ran up to the front of the room. She said, "Manley, I was in the room in April. Do you remember me?" I said, I do remember your face. Your name again, Deborah. Thank you, Deborah. Miss Deborah Lopez. And she said, "Gosh, I want to tell you, I was quiet in the back and took a bunch of notes, struggling in my life, and I met you. But I want you to know two things. I got a raise. I got a promotion. And Manley, I think most importantly, my life is better than when I met you." One of my best days, right? That's what I live for. All I ask from you now is go use this stuff, and if it makes a difference, let me know. Email, text that moment like Deborah. That's why I do what I do. If your life's better than when we met today, when you walk out here, my job is well done. Thank you, and I'll see you. I'll be here all day. Appreciate y'all. Next session, we've got a break coming up and more good stuff.